Hey guys, um, welcome to part 5 of my college experience. I feel like I can just keep making all these parts, and you guys are just gonna really get to know me, what I've been through, and how sick and twisted these cults are. Um, so today, I thought I would just make this YouTube video a lot more spiritual. Um, and I'm going to be talking about demons in the ICOC. Um, I haven't seen a lot of videos on this. And I feel like I know I'm not alone here. When you're in a cult or when you're just in a very dark place where there's a lot of dark energy and you start seeing demonic entities in people, um, you really just start to question, like, wait, what's going on here? Um, and so today I'm going to be talking about demons in the ICOC. And I'm also going to be talking about the fact that I was actually friends with an ICOC cult member. Um, it was not a real friendship, but at the time we were friends. Um, I am no longer friends with him. But you know what? I figured, why not share my story of how I became friends with this guy and how it really just led to me being spiritually abused and attacked by this cult. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to call this guy Eric. Um, Eric is, I believe, currently still a member of the ICOC. He goes to a different branch, not the one in Boston. And I actually met this guy on Instagram. Uh, this is really funny. I met this guy on Instagram. Eric, he had this fitness Instagram page. I remember there was this one day I was on Instagram. I got this follower request, from Eric. And I thought to myself, I don't know this guy. Why does this guy want to follow me? And I remember I looked at the follower request and I went to his Instagram page. And, one thing that I noticed about Eric was that, he appeared to be a Christian. He was talking about God, in all of his posts. He gave a lot of glory to him. And I just saw a passion from him about God and about Jesus. And so for me personally, I was really attracted to that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I allowed him to follow me and why I also followed his page. Um, ooh. But now looking back, I can see how that just led that was the worst decision I ever made in my life. I think what's even worse was that even though I didn't know Eric at the time, and even though I was following his Instagram page, the fact that I decided to even send him a direct message on Instagram was also a huge mistake. Um, so I'm just gonna just make sure that, I'm not talking too long, but this video might be kind of very long. But just to sum up this whole video in one sentence. Eric is a narcissist. And for me to just admit that, for me to just say that, um, it's really freeing for me because I thought that I was going insane from the way that he treated me in our fake online friendship. Um, but yeah, at the same time, when someone is a wolf in sheep's clothing, like, of course, when they come up to you, they're going to appear as this harmless sheep, this harmless, innocent sheep. And it's not until you get to know them later on, or maybe even the second day, that you start to see the wolf that's inside, that's being hidden inside, and the mask that they're wearing starts to slip, and you start to see them for who they truly are. Yeah, so I didn't know Eric was an ICOC member from his Instagram account. I just knew that, from what he was posting, that he loved God, he loved Jesus and whatnot. But it wasn't until later on in our friendship that I realized he was a member of the ICOC. Eric was very charming. He was very attractive. I'll be honest with you guys, like, I think that's one of the reasons why I messaged him on his Instagram account. He was, he was really fit. He loved exercising. He was really attractive. He had a really nice aesthetic face. And, when the Bible talks about, Satan coming as an angel of light, in a way, when I first met Eric, when I looked at his Instagram page, he appeared to be this angel of light, this modeled Christian that I just thought he was. But unfortunately, that was not the case. Eric love bombed me in the beginning of our friendship. I remember I messaged him, we got talking and whatnot, and he just seemed to be a really nice guy. We would just talk about, like, stuff like what's going on in his life, what's going on in my life. I just thought, our conversations were going to be just on Instagram. But the funny thing is that Eric, when we were messaging back and forth on Instagram, he actually gave me his number one day. And I remember the day he gave me his number, I thought to myself, why is he giving me his number? Like, I get it, like, we've been talking for a while, but, like, it just seemed weird. The fact that he just gave it out so freely to me, even though I am a complete stranger. And even when Eric gave me his number, when we were just talking through text messaging, he also suggested that we, talk over Voxer. And Voxer is a voice messaging app where you can just send voice messages back and forth. And, now looking back, I can definitely see how I was sort of this new source of supply for him. And if you're not familiar with narcissism, I suggest you really check out the playlist that I have on my channel, because I'm going to use a lot of really interesting jargon related to narcissism. So, for example, like, I was a supply for Eric. I was a source of energy for him. And while he was sucking that out of me, I was giving my all in this friendship, this fake friendship, because I am an empath. Eric love bombed me so much, to the point where I remember there was this one day we were talking on Valentine's Day. And I remember one day Eric just asked me, like, would you like to be my Valentine's? Would you like to be my Valentine? And I remember thinking, like, oh my goodness, Eric just asked me to be his Valentine. Like, I just remember feeling so smitten with him, and just the attention that he was giving me and whatnot. And I just remember saying yes. I remember he actually sent me a picture of him with his hand in the form of a heart, half of a heart. And he told me to send him a picture back and to complete the heart. And I remember thinking, like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, of course, like, I can do that. And I just remember just developing these feelings for him super early. And that's exactly what he wanted from me. He wanted me to be smitten with him. He wanted me to like him, even though there was no reciprocation whatsoever. It was just a ploy. And at the same time, I can definitely see how Eric really just mirrored me in our fake friendship, and how, because I was sharing so many personal details with him, I was sharing my vulnerabilities, my strengths, what I was struggling with, what I'm scared of, what my fears were. He knew exactly what to tell me to keep me stuck in the friendship, to make me feel like I couldn't leave the friendship. I know this is so crazy because our friendship was completely online. But there were times where Eric actually made me feel like I couldn't leave the friendship. There were times where he would just love bomb me to the point where he would tell me, like, he told me he wanted to be a support system for me, because I told him that my support system in Boston was completely non-existent, very limited, did not exist. Um, and that's gonna be addressed in a later video, because I know why that happened and why, that was such a huge deal for me in college. And that just relates to other stuff, so I'd rather just save that for another video. But yeah, Eric, yeah, he was like Prince Charming. He would vox me once a week. We would go back and forth. And one thing I noticed about him, about Eric, is that, most of the time when we were voxing, I felt like he was using me as a talking board. And I would be the one to listen to all his concerns. I would be the one to reply back to him really quickly. I would be the one to actually express concern and care. While as a narcissist, he really did respond to me when it was really just needed. And at the same time, I felt like I was getting this lack of support from him. It was like his concerns, his problems were more important than mine. And it was like my feelings weren't being addressed, and my voice messages were being completely ignored for weeks. Whereas as an empath, I would take a lot of care and consideration into replying to him really promptly, but to also, like, just like care for him and whatnot. But the fact that, finding out that he was an ICOC member, that was also a huge issue for me. Because once Eric started love bombing me, in the beginning of our friendship, one thing with these cult members in the ICOCs, once they start love bombing you, they'll start to pull away from you. They'll start to decrease the love bombing. It's kind of like this weird addiction. Love bombing can feel like an addiction where, your mind is so addicted to the way someone's paying attention to you, the way someone's caring for you, the way someone's showing you love. But then when that person starts to pull away, you start to wonder, what did I do? Why is the love bombing decreasing? And it sort of becomes this like pull and push kind of thing, where it's kind of like the person who's love bombing you is using love to manipulate and control you. And at the same time, that's exactly what Eric did. He would love bomb me, but then at the same time, he would pull away from me. And it was kind of like he knew exactly what to do to control me. And of course, because he's in a cult, and because the people around him are doing the exact same thing. When I found out that Eric was in the ICOC, as an empath, and as someone who just cares deeply about people, I wanted to rescue him. I really wanted to rescue him. Yeah, I really wanted to rescue him. I didn't want him to stay in the ICOC. And at the same time, I deeply knew that they were brainwashing him. Um, and at the same time, I realized I'm not here to rescue anybody. I am no one's savior. And the fact that I created this false burden and I put it on myself um, is just really extreme to me. But I'm so glad that I had the courage to leave that friendship and to just leave him behind. But at the same time, the trauma that he inflicted on me, it's still something I still have to process. Um, Eric manipulated me to stay in the friendship. There were many times when we were, texting back and forth where my spirit would tell me that, this guy is not good for you. You need to cut off the friendship. And lo and behold, Eric would, use emotional blackmail to get me to stay in the friendship. It was like, I told him how much I have this fear of abandonment, of being alone. And he used that against me to get me to stay in a friendship with him. It was like he would tell me, like, you have such a fear of being alone. Look at what you're doing to me. Look at what you're doing to me. You're doing the same thing to me. You're leaving me. And it was just this emotional kind of blackmail of, wait, he's right. Maybe I shouldn't leave him. Maybe I should stay in this friendship. I don't want to hurt him. And, this idea of him telling me that if I left the friendship, that it was really going to hurt him. This idea of using someone's emotions to blackmail them. It's just so sick and twisted. And I just can't stand this guy. Oh my goodness. He actually told me, and I remember this very clearly, Eric told me that if I cut him off, that I wouldn't have any friends. And it was the kind of thing of, because he knew that I was struggling with, a lot of the friendships in my life, a lot of them were just really toxic. He knew exactly what to say to get me to stay. And the fact that he just dangled the fact that I was struggling with friendships, that he told me that if I cut him off, that I wouldn't have any friends. Emotional blackmail is the worst thing ever. The fact that he mirrored me, it was just so sneaky but smart of him. And the way he just got so much information out of me and used it against me is just so satanic. I regret sharing so many personal details with this guy. And the funny thing is, he's still on Instagram. He still has so many followers. And I'm not going to be surprised if I'm not the only one that he's been manipulating. I'm pretty confident that he's probably manipulating other women, using other women as sources of supply. May God have mercy on his soul. I can't. Eric, like any ICOC member, made me question my salvation and my beliefs. A form of gaslighting. Ooh, I didn't know what gaslighting was until a year ago, and until I started doing research on what gaslighting was. It's really funny the way people will gaslight me, and I would just start to question myself. I couldn't trust myself. I couldn't trust my intuition, my beliefs, my opinions. And when someone gaslights me, depending on the circumstances and the situation, my mind will just go gaslighting. And anytime someone gaslights me, I'm just like, I can sniff it just right away. And I think it's important that we all are aware when someone's gaslighting us, because what people don't realize is that gaslighting is Satan's native language. if you go back to the Garden of Eden story, and when you go back to the original sin, how Eve was tempted by Satan, Satan, like the snake he is, gaslighted Eve. And he made Eve doubt her own reality and what God said. And when I just saw gaslighting for what it was and how it contributed to original sin, whenever someone gaslights me, I do not take it very well. Automatically, I just hear Satan and I'm just like, no. I stay away from that person because that's just it's just evil to me. When people gaslight you and they do it it's so subtle and it's snake-like. I had a lot of friends that would gaslight me and I cut them off and I blocked them and I don't want them in my life again. But yeah, my friendship with this ICOC member eventually led me to go back to the ICOC the second time. When I was struggling with depression and whatnot, Eric was the one person who was talking to me. Eric was the one person who cared about me. And, well, at least I thought he cared about me. And I just thought, if Eric's telling me that the ICOC isn't a cult, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not a cult. And I just started to doubt myself. But, it was because of the influence Eric had over me. I decided to go back to the ICOC. I decided to reconnect with the people I knew there in Boston. And lo and behold, that was the worst mistake of my life. I eventually reconnected with Ashley, the girl that recruited me my freshman year, tried to recruit me. Worst mistake of my life. Ashley just kept inviting me to Bible talks and to devos and whatnot. I went a couple of times, to the Bible talks and whatnot, whatever. I was sort of like suspicious of her from the beginning. I was suspicious of the group from the very beginning because of all the cult allegations. And for me, going back the second time was for me to see, like, okay, if Eric's telling me this group isn't a cult, I need to see the proof for myself. I need to go back and I need to figure out, like, this for myself. I need to figure out, like, what do I need? What evidence do I need? Because this just doesn't make sense to me. And the fact that he's a member, it just doesn't make sense to me. I could even go on and on about these Bible talks, but something just didn't feel right to me. Even when I was like going to the Bible talks, I remember Ashley telling me how, we were waiting for, we were going to walk over there to the other college because, on my campus, they're banned. So we were waiting for a couple of people in the recreation center. And I remember Ashley telling me, like, they had all these new freshmen, these new sophomores. And I can't lie to you, but she actually told me, this is our next generation. This idea of they need to recruit freshmen and sophomores because, Ashley is graduating soon. Ashley is not going to be at my school forever. And so it's really crucial for them to make sure that they have another younger generation who's going to take their place and participate in their evil wickedness. And that's just crazy to me. But even, while I was at the Bible talk with Ashley, just seeing the way that some of these, sophomores were, it looks like they were robots. Like, I remember I was sitting at a Bible talk and the way this one girl was just responding to the Bible talk's leader's questions, it just looks very robotic. It seemed like she was being programmed to say this stuff. And it seemed like she was being programmed to be happy. And that's another thing with some cults. If you're not happy, if you are not enjoying your time in the cult, ooh, get ready for, a conversation with one of them, because being happy is crucial and essential for them to keep an appearance of, we're an amazing group. And that's just another form of emotional control where they just need you to be happy, even if you're not. But yeah, Ashley invited me to an ICOC retreat that was happening in Connecticut around last year, November. Worst mistake ever was agreeing to go. There was a part of me that, even though Ashley was showing me all this fake love, even though she was love bombing me, part of me wanted to believe that she had good intentions, that she was genuine. And that's very dangerous when, we're taught to see the good in people, because some people are just purely evil and they're satanic. And you know what? Looking back, I can see why I said yes to her. And at the same time, I'm just like, even when I was just like going back and forth talking to Eric, like he was the one influencing me to go to these Bible talks, to just talk to Ashley, and at the same time, because he was questioning my beliefs and whatnot, and I felt like, I was just in this weird situation where, I was confused. And even at the ICO retreat, it just led to more confusion. Me feeling like I was in between two doctrines. The doctrine that I know to be true, being saved by grace through faith, and then the ICOC is telling me that baptism completes my salvation, which is completely, really hard to believe. And at the same time, they're using Acts 2:38 to verify that, to validate that. And when you read Acts 2:38 so literally, you're going to start to think to yourself, oh, okay, yeah, baptism is essential. It does complete, but it just, I was always really fickle on the doctrine, on the ICOC's doctrine, but I was just like, when I was at the ICOC retreat, I felt like I was confused, and I felt like I was in the middle of the doctrine that I believe to be true, that I believe that's in the Bible, and just what the ICOC is telling me. And so while I was at the retreat, I just felt this sense of confusion fall over me. And at the same time, I'm just trying to really think about, the Bible verses people are showing me in Acts 2:38. And, Acts 2:38 is such a, not that to say that the Bible, no, it's just that verse is so easy for Satan to twist to mean something else that is just, it's Satan's favorite Bible verse. He can easily twist that Bible verse, and I can't stand it. And at the same time, when I was at the ICOC retreat, I was going to these workshops where Ashley was telling me that, it would be good for me to go to a workshop that was teaching the foundations of Christianity. So while I was at this workshop, the campus ministry leader, I don't know, I'm going to call him Jonathan. So the campus ministry leader, Jonathan, was leading the workshop, and he was talking about the foundations of what it means to be a Christian. And he just kept going over, the process to salvation, belief, repentance, baptism, and how it's just, verified, in the Bible, and how he would just take all these verses in the book of Acts, and he would just like repeat them over and over and over and over again to this huge audience of freshmen, sophomores, and people who are still not disciples yet. And I'm saying disciples with quotation marks. And at the same time, I'm sitting here And as Jonathan is going over these Bible verses in Acts, I remember he went over this particular Bible verse in Acts. And I remember I was using my Bible app, and my spirit told me, change the Bible version, change the version of the Bible. So I remember as he was like stating that Bible verse, I changed the Bible version. And I noticed that the verse was translated very differently. And one thing I also noticed was that, as Jonathan was stating this verse, he was twisting it in a way to make it mean something else, to make people believe that baptism is necessary for salvation. And that also was just a huge red flag for me. And at the same time, I'm just sitting here like, what the heck? Oh my goodness. Like, where am I? Like, why am I so confused? What is this? Yeah, oh gosh, it's crazy. But you know what? Now that I've just kind of given you guys a brief summary of how I just ended up back in the ICOC again and how I became friends with someone in the ICOC accidentally, I was spiritually attacked by Satan in this group. And oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. So I was in the hotel room. I should probably mention the retreat was at a hotel. It wasn't in the middle of nowhere. The retreat was at a hotel in Connecticut. And I remember Ashley was telling me that one of the campus interns, wanted to have a conversation with me about their doctrine and my beliefs. And so, me thinking it's going to be a harmless conversation, I said, yeah, sure. We're going to call this campus intern Kylie. Yeah, so Kylie wanted to have a conversation with me, and Ashley was going to be there. And so, we went to the hotel lobby where there was a table and some chairs, and, Ashley was there, Kylie was there. And, again, what the ICOC does is I'm sitting at one end of the table, Kylie grabs a chair and she sits on the other end of the table, and Ashley's like sort of like in between us, kind of. I remember Kylie was just asking me over and over, because I was confused and because I was in the middle of two doctrines, she told me, do you believe one of these doctrines is false? And I remember thinking, no. I told her no. And I remember she rephrased the question over and over again, and I kept telling her no. I remember she opened a Bible verse to show me that if I love Jesus, that I would obey his commandments. As if that's supposed to mean that by not saying no, I'm not obeying by not saying yes, I'm not obeying his commandments. And at the same time, I remember when I told her no. I remember telling Kylie to her face. I told Kylie and Ashley to their face, I just have to hold fast to my truth and say, baptism doesn't save you. That doesn't save you. It doesn't complete your salvation. And I remember telling them this, and I remember also saying, it's an act of obedience. It's a work of righteousness. It doesn't complete your salvation. And I remember Kylie was just like, she was actually like finishing my words because she knew exactly what I was going to say. And oh boy, that's when the demon in her came out. My goodness, I remember I was giving Kylie complete full eye contact while she was talking to me. I remember she said this so with such wicked passion. She said, "Why are you holding on to false doctrine?" And I remember when she said that, it triggered me. And I was just looking at her like, oh my goodness. And guys, I cannot make this up. I can't even, I wish I could make this up because this, I remember I was looking her right in her eyes, and it was like there was, it was like I saw this silhouette over her. And honestly, it looked like when I was giving her eye contact, it was like I was looking at Satan. And at the same time, you know, when I was seeing this, it was like I was seeing this in my mind, and physically it was like, it was unreal. It just felt so supernatural to me. How can I be seeing Satan in her? And at the same time, Kylie's trying to get me to submit to their doctrine. And my spirit is telling me no. And at the same time, I feel like I'm going back and forth. I'm having all of this cognitive dissonance in my head. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I can't do that. I can't believe your doctrine. If I believe your doctrine, you're telling me that I'm not saved. You're telling me that my salvation was not real. And that's a lie. And at the same time, I'm like, believing their doctrine meant that I had to let go of God. It was like I was having this kind of battle in my head where it was like submitting to them meant, or submitting to their doctrine meant letting go of God. And it was kind of like this back and forth kind of thing where I was just, I just didn't want to do it. And the fact that I saw the silhouette of Satan over her, it just felt so satanic. The energy around me felt so evil. And it was also really cold. At the same time, it was so surreal to me and so supernatural. And now looking back, I'm looking, that silhouette that was over her, it was like I was seeing a demon. In the Bible, or from what I've learned from my research, they call it a prince of demons. Because the silhouette that I saw over her, it was very big, and it sort of felt like it was in the form of someone that it gave off a prince of demon kind of vibe for me. Because the silhouette that was over her was just very big, but it was also very satanic. You want to know the craziest part? It was like I saw that demon try and grab me as I was looking Kylie in her eyes. It was like that demon was trying to grab me as I was trying to, fight with this cognitive dissonance I was having in my mind. That demon tried to grab me. It was stretching its hands out towards me. And, oh my goodness, I remember I cried. I remember I just told them, like, I needed space. I walked away, and I ended up crying because I went away to a corner and I cried. And there it goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was my spiritual attack, where Satan tried to attack me. And I remember, telling people about this, and it's kind of like when people say the eyes are the window to the soul. Kylie has sold her soul to Satan. That's why that demon, when I looked her in the eyes, when it came out, it was attached to her soul. And at the same time, I'm just sitting here like, what? This is a cult. Of course, Satan is thriving in this cult. And it's just so wicked to me. That demon tried to grab me. And here I am trying to process all of it. And at the same time, I'm just a hot mess. I felt like a hot mess that evening. I remember, when I was crying, Ashley came over and she said, let's finish the conversation. I remember I couldn't even look Kylie in the eyes after that. I couldn't look her in the eyes. I had all of this fear over me. And at the same time, I forgot to mention this. When the spiritual energy felt so evil, I remember I glanced over at Ashley. Ashley gave me a smirk. She gave me a smirk. And I was just like, it was the most evil smirk I've ever seen in my life. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, that's when I noticed, that's when I told myself, this is a cult. Why are you giving me an evil smirk when I've just been traumatized? Are you kidding me? So I remember, when I went off to go cry, Ashley came over and said, let's finish the conversation. And she was also quickly gaslighting me very quickly. When I went to go sit down, and she was like, it's just a conversation. Like, it's just a conversation, that kind of gaslighting. I don't know. I just told them I wanted to go back to my hotel room. The conversation sort of quickly ended there. And I remember, I remember when Kylie left, it was just me and Ashley. And Ashley, she said to me, and I cannot make this up, you guys. She said, she said this in the most condescending voice I've ever heard. She said, maybe, you're having trouble spiritually, because of, what's going on mentally. And it's this idea of, because I wouldn't submit to their doctrine, there's something mentally wrong with me. And that form of gaslighting, oh gosh. And then she said, are you sure you want to go back to the hotel room by yourself? I just don't want you to hurt yourself. And it's this idea of, why are you implanting the seed of self-harm in my mind? She actually told me this. She actually told me, I just don't want you to hurt yourself. When did I ever tell you that I was going to hurt myself? You see, this is why that girl, Ashley, Kylie, these members, without knowing it, they have given their soul over to Satan. They are displaying so many narcissistic traits. And at the same time, it's like, just like Eric, it's like they're presenting themselves as servants of righteousness when they are far from it. And that's why I feel so much sorrow for people who are trapped in this cult. Your mental health is going to be messed up. I'm telling you, it's going to get so messed up in this cult. Which is why it's one of the reasons why, so many of these cult members have to go see counselors and go to therapy and whatnot, because they're in a cult that is attacking their mind and that's gaslighting them like crazy. Gaslighting is so serious, it can make you go insane. That's how serious gaslighting is. And, just to be spiritually attacked like that in that group is just so crazy to me. I remember, Ashley walked me back to the hotel room, and I told her I wanted to be alone. And, I was alone for the most part, even though, my roommates were still in the room. I was alone for the most part. And I just remember my spirit telling me that I had to get out of there. Um, and I listened to it. I trusted myself. And the next thing that I did was, when no one was in the hotel room, I packed my stuff. I packed my clothes. I packed my toiletries. And I told God, I said, you know what, I need a way out of here. And so I remember thinking, I was in Connecticut, I was in the city, and I knew there had to be some kind of bus station nearby that could take me back to Boston. And I was so grateful. It's only by God's grace that, like, I found a bus back to Boston so late. And just really being spiritually attacked. Oh gosh, I'm gonna remember this forever. I remember just crying on the bus ride back to Boston, just crying and crying my heart out. Crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. And lo and behold, I'm getting these text messages and this Facebook messages from Kylie, asking me, where am I? Am I okay? All of this crap of concern. Once I left that ICOC retreat, I left the ICOC for good. I no longer want these people in my life. I no longer want to be associated with this group. This group is of Satan. I don't care how many times they read their Bible. I don't care what they do or what they claim to do for God. This group is of Satan. They spiritually abuse me in this group. They have narcissists in this group, and I can't even. Yeah, I just blocked so many people. Oh, you want to know the funny part? Do you remember Jonathan, that campus ministry leader that was leading that workshop? Oh gosh, this is also going to be really funny. When he was twisting that Bible verse, I was licking him like straight, like to his face. And I remember seeing a demonic entity move in his face. And it was like this quick 3-second thing where I thought I was like, wait, did I actually just see that? And now looking back, I probably did see that because, in any religious cult, Satan is working there, Satan is thriving there. And these doctrines that they're proposing to you are doctrines of devils. That's why I was seeing these demonic entities in Jonathan, in Ashley, in Kylie, because this is of Satan. But then they're masquerading themselves as Christians. That's the sick part. And they're doing wicked things in the name of God. I can't even, and the fact that, they're displaying all of these narcissistic traits. Well, of course, Satan is the narcissist. And I'm doing so much research on narcissism. These people can be anywhere. We really need to be on guard because this is not a joke. Like, as an empath, I really, this is so important to me, and it's just so crucial to me more than ever. Being spiritually attacked by the ICOC, and then seeing people defended on YouTube, seeing people claim that this is a good group, claim that this group isn't a cult. It's just a slap in the face. It's such a huge slap in the face to God. It's so despicable. It's evil. And I think that's why most of the time you'll see me on those YouTube videos where they're saying that it's not a cult, that it's like lovely and pretty. Like, I'll comment and I'll put Bible verses there because these people are wicked. They are not of God. They do not represent God. They're teaching people to be narcissists just like Satan. And it's sick. It's wicked. I've learned so much from my fake friendship with Eric then I'm starting to see the signs very clearly. I can tell when someone's manipulating me. I can tell when someone's gaslighting me. And that is so much power. When you know the schemes of the enemy, that's so much power to you, and you have so much knowledge. But really, as a believer, just knowing that you need to claim your authority and that they have no power over you. I'm telling you guys, if I ever see an ICOC member, if I see an ICOC member come up to me again, I'm going to rebuke that demon right to their face, because this isn't a joke. Like, they're taking young and naive freshmen, and without knowing it, these freshmen are consenting to a demonic spirit. That's why when you're doing these Bible studies, they're so spiritually abusive and traumatizing, because they need to make sure that your mind is open to receiving a demonic spirit. And that's just the sick, twisted part of it. When you're being traumatized, your mind is very wide open to indoctrination and to Satan's schemes. And that was just my spiritual attack. That's just my personal experience with demons in the ICOC. I will say, like I mentioned in the first video, like when I noticed Ashley's personality change. Now, I'm telling you guys, these personality changes, it's not because, they're upset or whatever. Like, sometimes when these people have these personality changes, it's demonic in the sense of, it's like they have a split personality. And I know I'm not alone when I can see it in some cult members where all of a sudden they're very nice and sweet, and then next thing you know, that personality changes very quickly. And that's why, if you've been in this cult, I'm pretty sure you can notice the split personalities in some people. And I believe that is another way people are just demonically possessed. No demon can come inside without your consent, and it's just really wicked. And then it's just so blasphemous to me, the way Satan is working in this group. I'm telling you right now, if you defend the ICOC, you must have a demonic spirit in you for you to defend a demonic cult. I'm so serious about that, because that is a demonic stronghold that needs to be broken. This cult is not of God. They are of Satan, and they need to be rebuked in Jesus' name. Amen. Gosh. So, thank you so much for, just listening, guys. That's just my, story of my spiritual attack, and really just seeing how God has just given me this gift of spiritual discernment. I want to talk more about this gift in my next video or so, or the next 2 videos, but there are a couple of there's one other cult that I have to address in the next video. So I think, my gift of spiritual discernment will have to come later. But thank you so much for just taking the time to listen. I hope that this was really informative for you. I really hope that if this video means anything to you, that you would just share it with someone, or that you would just give it a thumbs up. I think it's important that we call out and that we expose evil, like the Bible says, and that we rebuke it. And that, that the truth would just come to light. So, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.